2019 Finance Committee to order. We have 3 items on the agenda, but first, if we could have a moment of silence for Trooper Ben Campbell and his family. State Police. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the first item on the agenda. We've talked about this quite a few times. The Customs Border Patrol project. City manager is looking for a recommendation to the full council authorizing him to move forward with securing financing with Camden National Bank for the Customs Border Patrol project. I think we talked about this at the last meeting, too.
Yeah, Lance and I had a conference call with Monica Hughes today, who's setting up this project for Customs and Border. They're all ready to go. Shane McDougall has gone through some of the cost analysis for the hangar project and the fuel farm. He's very comfortable in believing that's going to come in around 1.1 million. We talked about with Camden National borrowing up to 1.5. He believes he's going to be able to come in at $1.1 million. That fits all of our lease arrangement as far as cost. We talked to Monica a little bit about the rate because the rate did change over what we initially thought it was going to be. She didn't really have any issue with that. You know, the difference in the cost. It'll go up about $300 a month in the lease with them. So it's a matter now of moving this forward and having it put out to bid for the hangar project.
Okay, we'll move right along. Any questions on this? Could I get a motion to move this to the full council, which will be on the 16th, we think?
Yes.
I got to have either Carol, Kyle, or Stan. Okay, so
Second.
Carol.
I'll second.
Okay, and then Kyle. Thank you, though, for jumping in. I appreciate that. I can always count on you.
Good for something.
Yes. Any discussion on that? All in favor? 2-4. There we go. Thank you. The what is it? Plymouth replacement and fire station. We're looking to move this also forward. The only question I have, we got the one bid? Did we get any other bids?
So we sent that to the.
Yep, you.
Okay. We sent that out to the insurance, to Maine Municipal.
Okay.
And we know what this total is for them, for Plymouth Vent.
It was
So what we're
60-something thousand, right?
Yep. So what we're looking to do now is if Maine Municipal, between now and the time the council meeting shows up, if Maine Municipal does not cover that, we would have that as the initial cost. We'd send that out to bid to 2 other companies to see if we could get something less than that amount. I don't know if there's someone who'll be less than them or not. But
So if the insurance covers it, we're all set anyways.
Right.
If they don't cover it, then you guys will have it out for bids, and that on the 16th, what is the amount? That one's
66.
66 something.
Yeah.
So at the meeting on the 16th, you would already have it prepared of the 3 bids that are there. We just picked one, if we don't get the insurance.
hopefully we'll have those bids ready. If we don't, then we're going to have to wait. But
Are there a lot of companies that do this?
There's a couple that are out there, yeah. The reason we went with Plymouth Vent is because that's what's used. Bangor Fire uses it in all their stations. Brewer Fire uses it. Orono Fire uses it. VZ Fire uses it, and they like it. So we have a mix. We have a Needham rail system, and we have Plymouth Vent drops.
Okay.
So we kind of have a mixed
Okay.
stuff. Yeah.
And you had said that's who's been there in the past anyway, so it's not like it's a new company or anything like that.
Right.
Okay. Okay, could I get a motion to move this to the full council, please?
So moved.
Stan,
I'll second it.
Carol, discussion? All those in favor? You're doing great. 4-0. Okay, we're moving on to the last item, budget discussions. The Finance Committee will meet with department managers to discuss the upcoming 2019-2020 municipal budget. I believe the first one is, you want to talk first?
sure.
Okay.
So you all have a package in front of you. Obviously, a lot of information. This is just the first night to introduce this to you all. When you look down through here, in the front of your package, you're going to see pollution controls in there first, with some budget notes, their backup documentation to that. You go down through, you're going to see, as you thumb down through this, you'll notice that there's a total to the budget. It's a colored document that's in here, which shows the total budget loaded as presented to myself and Danielle, just so you'll be able to hear that tonight. These increases are all preliminary, obviously. There are no, when you read that colored worksheet, which is this one that you'll see in your information, that's just totally loaded in there. There are no additional revenues, transfers have been added. This is just strictly cost that you see in here. The next document that you get in here is a budget master. That's 44 pages. That's the backup to all this. So these number totals at the bottom of each page total back to this colored one. So you'll be able to see those in there. Behind that, you'll see a handout that says capital paving, which shows the streets that are proposed to be paved. And then you get into behind that, there's the heavy equipment, IT and facilities requests. And then the final page are reserve balances in there. So I know you guys will have a lot of questions when you have an opportunity to look through this, but it's obviously a lot of information to get going with here tonight. But that's basically everything that we'll have to present.
And we sounds like we're gonna come back next Wednesday at 4 o'clock to come back again. And then from there, we'll figure out a schedule from there. So I think that once we really digest this and really get into it, we might want to have, not every department head, maybe there's only a few that come back, just ask more specific questions if we need to,
Sure.
which would be at a later date, probably after break week or something, but we can figure that out next Wednesday. All right, so where are we, what am I looking at, this thing right here?
First one. We can call it the first.
Dave from
department,
Pollution
which would be
Control.
Pollution Control, which should be a very first sheet that's on here.
This one here?
Yep.
Good evening, it's evening, good evening.
Yes. Good evening.
Okay. So what do we got here? This is yours right here.
Yeah.
Health, dental, now the last, what are we on, year 3 of this 5%? What is this?
This is year 4.
This is year 4.
Well, we're in year 3, and I'm asking for year 4.
Okay, we're on year 3, we're asking for year 4.
Yeah.
And how's that, does that put us into the, I'm assuming we're in the black by now? By doing this the last 2 or 3 years?
No, because if you look at the,
No, go ahead.
if you look at
Go
the
ahead.
rate study, and you read the middle of this talks about revenue, that rate study was done in 2013. We didn't implement it until 2016. You go back and look at the rate study, and it was supposed to be at 6% increments, and we've been going at 5% increments. So we're actually below the percent they recommended in 3 years implemented later than they told us to. So if you look at the amount of money that annually we had to pull out of reserves for wastewater, that's been going down because the revenues have been going up. So we're closing that gap, and in 2 years we should be at a level position, because this is very similar to what happens at the airport. They take in $1.2 million roughly in revenues, but part of that revenue gets allocated out to reserve funds. Just like at the airport, when their revenue comes in, goes off to hangar reserve and some other accounts. They don't get to spend all that revenue.
Okay. I just got like a couple questions.
Didn't mean to
Yeah, no, that's fine.
No. Mine's on, you just hired 2 people, I see that here. So, when you say it's gonna reduction in overtime, does that mean that right now they go Monday to Thursday, is somebody gonna do Tuesday to Friday, so that covers that
No,
what you mean?
the way we work it, everybody works Monday through Thursday,
Okay.
10-hour days. I work Monday through Friday, 8-hour days.
Okay,
So the overtime would be call-ins. Obviously, if the employees are making less money, the overtime rate's less. And then also we do weekend duty coverage they're on a 4-week rotation. When the new guys work the weekends, they obviously get paid less than the other two that make more than they do.
So on Fridays, if there's a call, you take care of it, or do you
I
actually?
take care of it, depends on what it is. A lot of times, we're required to have 2 people, safety-wise, to go on certain calls. So probably 70% of the calls I can handle by myself. If it's one that requires 2 people, I obviously have to call in the person who's on call.
Right.
How does that work?
I call them
Do
in.
you know it? Do you have that many calls?
It seems to be, for the last few Fridays, it seems we've been getting a few, yeah, but we don't, we could go months without any calls, and then we could get 2 or 3 in one day. You just never know.
So the bulk of your overtime is call-ins?
The bulk of our overtime is weekend duty, which I think we have a separate line item for weekend duty, but the bulk of our overtime is call-ins. And the majority of that is actually this time of year when we have a lot of rain. The rain out, puts a lot of extra flow through the plant, and once it gets to a certain level where we have to be in there.
So what?
So
if
there's
I'm looking at
there's some nights where they work all night long.
Well, I guess my question is, in the cover sheet, it says that the extra person is going to result in a reduction in overtime if it's call-ins.
Cost.
How
It's
is
going to
that-
be cost, because if you, I don't want to say rates, but if you're paying someone $26 an hour, 30-something dollars an hour overtime,
Okay.
and then you're paying another guy $24 in overtime, I think that's where the cost is. I think that's where we're going to save.
So you're not anticipating less call-ins?
We're
just
not
that it's-
calling, no, we're just paying it at a lesser rate than we were.
So it's not a seniority thing as far as calling, is it just?
No,
this person's on duty no matter what?
That's right, and
Gotcha.
whoever's on call for that week is the guy that gets called.
So if I'm looking at this, so it's the line, it says overtime, 111. Looks like it's gonna be, difference of it, looks like it's gone, looks like you're projecting it down even more. $7,000 less. Of course, that doesn't count the benefits for both people.
No,
that
that's
we-
where,
I mean,
that's
that-
where it's gonna,
That's where it's
probably
gonna,
gonna go up. The
right,
budget will go up
or it's
a
gonna
little
wipe
bit.
off the,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, but we really needed the extra guy. We were kind of strapped down there.
Oh, no, you guys have been, yep. So you're asking for the 4%, 5% for another year then?
Yep.
Any questions for Dave on any of this, or Bill? Once again, like Bill said, tonight's really us taking the information in and we can think this through, so. Any questions? No? Thank you.
Yeah, you want to go over the 2 things that I'm increasing?
I mean, you can, yeah.
I'm asking, there's one line item which is 8010-265, which is our pump station spare parts, pretty much. Want to get it a more realistic number. I'm asking for $25,000 on that line instead of $5,000. We have 7 pump stations, like 15 pumps, and $5,000 just isn't enough to cover spare parts.
Right. Which line is it, Dave?
8010-265, I believe that's the one.
20,000?
Yeah, I'm asking for $20,000 more.
Do you anticipate some upgrades or something?
No, we just had 3 upgraded. It's just, we had a problem with one of the new stations, and it cost us $5,000 for the replacement part, and that wiped out the whole entire line item. So I'm anticipating that a little bit more in case something like that happens again. Hopefully not. I mean, we're not anticipating it, but I just want a realistic number in there. And then the other line item would be 8015-395, which is we contract some of our lab work out, heavy metals testing, and this is a 1 in every 4 years, and this is the year that I have to do it. So, and that's about $5,000.
But that's a mandatory thing, so.
That is mandatory. That's a DEP license requirement.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
There seems to be a big jump in the sludge disposal as well.
Yeah, I don't know what I asked, like $5,000 more for that. I'm sorry, I forgot
Right,
that
yeah.
one. We actually have a company that hauls a roll-off container for us, and they went up about $100 per trip. So, and I think we did 56 trips last year.
So that's contracted out, and that's not something.
That's contracted out. Yeah, we pay about $35,000 a year to Juniper Ridge for disposal, and about $18,000 a year to the company that hauls the sludge for us.
Sludge, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, so if we go by the big one that they gave us, the next, was it 1,000 central services? Okay.
So I take care of central services, employee benefits, health insurance for the city, and the debt service. Before I start any of that, I want to say just a blanket statement for all of the departments. Up above the first paragraph that you have, in every department, there is a wage increase, whether it's union or non. Every department has an 8% increase for health insurance, dental insurance, based on what we've seen in the previous year. And then the main PERS, they publish that every year starting July 1st, what the new rates are going to be. So those are ones that, again, affect all of our departments.
This is the one we got the other day, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
So as far as the central services department that I supervise, I don't see any major changes. We went through a lot of training in the previous couple of years, so now it's just going to be the 1s and 2 classes that we need to go to. We have enough in each department for that. The general insurances, we're in the middle of renewing those, so I don't have the rates. I've left them flat as they are. Before budget closes, we'll have whether the rates go up or down from Maine Municipal. Employee benefits, that's the same concept we have in there, the workers' comp, the tuition reimbursement, health, safety and wellness. Again, I don't see any major changes that we're going through. The workers' comp that we did get renewed, came in at the same rate, so we have plenty of that in there. The debt service, again, that's stuff that we already have bonded or loaned out. The increase that you do see in it is the cost of the new Customs and Border Patrol. So that is going to go on our debt schedule, but will be offset by the revenue that they're paying us for the lease. Those are my departments in a nutshell.
Okay, we got any questions for Danielle?
Just on that first page, there seems to be a big jump in retirement that doesn't match the salary increases. Do you know what that's all about?
That's the main PERS increase. So that's based off the wages that we make, and we have to put in the rate that the company pays.
Right, but it only went up 0.3%, it looks like. I guess I'm confused.
Went from 8,900 to 20,000, right? No, I'm looking at the wrong
No,
one.
17,400 is what we have budgeted this year. The $8,900 are the expenses that have been posted through January. So we're going to $20,000.
So confused.
Yeah, I want to make sure.
Well, I'm looking at your first sheet where it says the
We had a,
PRs is going from 7.8 to
Yep.
8.1 and 7.3 to 7.4, so very small increases, and this is a 19% increase. It doesn't match up in my head, I guess.
Right.
we had staffing change. We had a retirement in the year before, and so the rate at which she was making is less than the rate that the new person is making. So that's going to have an impact on it. The raises that people received last year, again, will increase that cost that the city pays. I can look into it and get back to you to make sure.
I'm a little confused myself.
Mhm.
That's all.
Well, if you're paying less, should be.
We're paying more.
We're paying.
We're paying more.
Paying more,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just paying. But if you don't mind just looking into that. 'cause
Absolutely.
I'm just confused myself. Looking at the one sheet at the 7, and this one says 19, so I agree.
What, you have a sheet that says 7?
Well, what Stan was showing you, or you were saying,
No,
the
7.3 to 7.4.
right, right.
Right, but I'm just looking at the retirement is directly related to the salaries. Am I correct?
Yes.
And the salaries went up 5%. The retirement's going up 19%. That's where my confusion lies.
Yeah, I can look into it and
Okay,
get back to
all
you.
right. Thank you.
I'm gonna circle that one. Okay, any other questions for Danielle? Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so next, where was I here? So, City Clerk Administration. Good evening.
Good evening.
My question for you every year is voting day. Do we have enough stuff? Do we have enough booths? Do we have enough machines? Or what do we need to do to help you out?
All right, so this is what's happening with the election. We all know that Casey Hall is up for sale.
Yes.
That's the bad news. The good news is I've already spoken with the Elks Lodge, so we can go there. I've been up there with Doug Hill from Public Works. I can make the inside work. It'd be crazy when it's a presidential gubernatorial. My biggest fear is the parking issue. Logistically, it's not as good as the Casey Hall was.
They don't have as many as the Knights? Elks doesn't?
Spread out.
Spread out more, okay.
It's spread out, you know,
Okay.
so I'm kind of concerned about that. So the other thing that I've had to include, if I find out before the budget, then I'll just take it out. But right now, there's a bill in the legislature to go back to the presidential primary elections instead of the caucuses. We did this several years ago, and I think we had like a 2% turnout.
Ah.
So it was really a big wasted expense.
Right.
So they went back to the other way of doing it by caucus. The last couple of years, there's been a lot of confusion with the caucuses, and I think some of the parties don't quite understand what their roles are. And they'll admit that. So their solution to that problem is to go back to the presidential primary elections and let the professionals do it. Here I am.
Yeah.
So, and every other clerk in the state. So I don't know where that's gonna go.
Okay.
But I have put it in the budget, so instead of 2 elections, I've budgeted for 3.
Okay.
So there is the increase there.
And you do have, I know, like we talked about last year, you do have enough machines that come election time, you don't need to rent anymore, or?
No, and the contract with the state, with ES&S, the current machines that we have, actually runs out at the end of the year. So I believe that the state is looking to go out to bid again.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if they've sent the bids out yet or not. They're not necessarily thrilled with the company that we have right now.
Right.
So again, I'm not sure if we'll even have those machines next year.
Oh.
We don't own them,
We just rent them?
we just lease them.
Lease 'em,
Well,
okay.
actually, we don't lease them, we have a lease agreement for them.
Gotcha.
But we don't pay for them. I would only have to pay if I want another machine.
Additional
But it was
machines.
like $780
Right,
to run a machine for one day.
right.
And you still have, it's the same number that you would have, I mean, if.
Yes,
So
if they go with a different company, I will still have 2 machines. You know, plus you got programming, That's $370 for the thumb drives that run the machines, another $370 for the thumb drives that run the handicap accessible machine.
Right.
You know, eventually it adds up, but I think we're fine with the two.
Okay.
We can now process the absentees on the weekend, which makes a huge difference.
Okay.
I wasn't able to do that in November, but I will be doing it the next time.
Okay.
So, any other questions on the election?
Any questions?
Is
for
the,
Patty?
the thing with the machines, is that the increase in computer services that's listed here, or?
Computer services,
No, that's the,
Oh, that's the wrong
The other
budget. Never mind.
contractual services, that's for the.
On the wrong page.
The renting of the hall. So the Casey's it's $500 a whack, and the Elks Lodge will honor the same price. So for 3 elections, that would be $1,500.
Okay.
any other questions for Patty on anything? Good? Okay, thank you, Patty.
Do you have any questions on my budget?
I don't think so. That's why I've been looking down through it. It looks, training materials is up, but I mean,
Yeah.
other than that, it's not.
Well, I did increase that only because I'm sending Michelle to the New England Institute. It's a 3-year program. I went to it. The growth is phenomenal, so I'd like to see her complete that. So like I said, it's the 3-year program. They go for a week, but that pays, it's like $800, but that pays their room and board, all their meals. So I had to increase the travel a little bit because she'll have to drive. It's in Plymouth, at Plymouth University in New Hampshire. So that's kind of a little bit of a hike. And then computer services, that was the only other increase, and that was for the TRIO program.
Right.
Dog program.
Okay. Thank you. We will move on to, we already got elections, city manager.
I really don't have any changes. Just thinking mathematically through this, not to go back, she said she was already gonna check it. But looking at how, I think what the difference is on these percentages, and again, NDS is figuring these percentages out, but I think what you find is that 7.3% was based on wages as of July 1st of last year. And so when she put this in the budget, there's a 3% increase to the salary line times the 7.4%. So when NDS looks at those percentages, it's comparing to last year's number, not the new percentage.
right.
So
Yeah,
we can look at that and see what that.
Yeah, just double check it.
yeah.
Okay. So on yours, it looks pretty, yours is flat, nothing on there, okay? Any questions for Bill? City council, looks everything's the same.
Yeah, your audit.
Sorry, I was trying to figure it out as you were talking. Can you just explain that one more time?
I would just. and I
What
don't
you
know
think it
that
is,
have
I don't know.
explained it. I don't know if I have explained it. I was just wondering out loud because I think when NDS makes that percentage difference on here, so last year's salary line as of July 1st is at the 7.3%. But then she added potentially 3% for this year's number that's loaded in there times the 7.4. So you have the increase of the 3% on the wages plus the slight increase on that. I don't know what percentage, we'll have to go through, like I said, and figure that out, but I'm not sure that NDS, the way that's looking at that, is just showing a difference from last year's base number to here.
Well, what I was just looking at was the budgeted for the current year and the requested for next year. And the difference was 7-point-something%. So I guess that's where,
Just simple math, if you take the wages, the 255,000 times the .01, that is $2,500, just on straight simple math. So that's part of the $3,300 increase. The 19%, as Bill indicated, is if you take the 33% divided by the 17.4, that's where they're coming up with 19%. So NDS is doing, it's not like a percent of the total or a percent of the cost, it's just the difference between the two budget years. But to satisfy the variance itself and the increase, it's, 2,500 of it just by taking the full-time wages.
Yeah, let's get an answer, yeah. It's still getting
What I can see,
complicated.
last year's budget to the projected next year's budget is 7% difference. That's what's showing up on, I'm on page 7,
Yep,
just full-time salaries,
page 7.
page 7. And if you look at budgeted 2018, 2019, manager requested 2019, 2020, that's a 7% increase.
Mhm.
So that's what you're asking for, is a 7% increase in salaries at that line? That's what it looks like.
No, we're gonna adjust, of course, Irene's salary's in there
Mhm.
with my salary, so I have requested an increase.
For 7%.
I have a better summary sheet, because again, the main reason why we left NDS to Trio, the way that they look at the calculations and the percents is not how we look at them, or, like what you're doing right now. So we have a separate summary sheet that shows, here's all the wages by every department, here's the prior year and the current year, and it shows the percentages. And I can send that out to you, so it's a summary of all departments and every change.
Okay,
It's more clear and defined than the way NDS presents it.
okay.
So, I mean, I guess if that's the way this whole thing is done, this is gonna skew all the numbers, because if, just for simplicity's sake, if I take the current budgeted amount of $132,000 and I add 3%, I come up with $136,000.
Mhm.
And the request is for $141,000. So there's quite a difference there.
$9,600.
Right, 9,600 is the total difference,
Mhm.
but I'm saying that a 3% increase from 132 would be 136.
Mhm.
That would be the total,
Mhm.
but the request is for 141.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can send you our spreadsheet to help explain it.
Okay, let's go to city council.
Biggest change in there, and they removed the community events manager line into that. That was a request by the council last fall, so that's in there. Audit services, there's really no change down through there. Maine Municipal Association, the rate should be the same on there, so
Right.
that's really the only difference in that.
Okay. Okay,
So, I wasn't here for that discussion, I
No,
apologize,
it's
but
a-
what
it's-
is that?
in the past, we have all these, the River Fest, the Memorial Day Parade, all these events that the volunteers
Yep.
do everything.
Yep.
So when we talked to Bill, mentioned about having a full-time staff person that would help oversee that, or which I should say coordinate that. So between the department heads, so it's not volunteers dealing with strictly department heads. And I believe the person is Travis Roy.
Okay.
So that way we have one central person, so it's not Riverfest, 11 of us trying to deal with 6 different department heads. This way it's all coordinated, and it's for, how many events do we have?
5 right now.
5 of them. And growing, so Travis is the main, he's the main person that deals with it. All the meetings and everything, coordinates everything through the department heads, through whatever we need to do.
Okay.
So it brings it, centralizes everything a lot easier. Volunteers do a great job. At the end of the day, it was falling on his lap and everybody else's lap, and this way it centralized it to one person. Okay, so moving on to legal services, everything looks to be the same.
Same. You
Yep.
never know. We don't know, year to year.
Depending on what
Depends
happens.
on what happens, the city gets sued, doesn't get sued. Don't know.
Okay. Next one is economic development. Is Ron here? There he is. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. No real changes proposed this year. It's pretty much the same as what was approved last year. The budget does show a balance for facade grants and some remaining money that was previously approved for the fiber project.
For the fiber, okay, yeah.
Some of that money is also in reserve accounts, and I'll be coming back to you next month with the LLC to give you a proposed budget for that group.
When you do that presentation that you normally do each year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I would mention that economic development doesn't contribute to that 8% that she was talking about earlier.
Oh, okay. All right, so facade and then, okay. Any questions for Ron on his budget? No? Thank you.
That was quick.
Well, like Bill said, we do this every year. We just try to take as much information in tonight as we can, and
Right.
don't be shocked in 2 or 3 weeks, we bring you back for some more questions, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one up is IT. Who's got IT?
I can cover that real quick. It's still, run a contract. Viz Compass was bought out by Thrive. But all those contracts that we have with them just carried on, so there's no change in the cost. That covers everything. That's our backup, any patches that happen to Microsoft products.
Are they still down south?
So the same type of security things and everything
Yep.
that we have is all
Yep.
going to carry forward.
Everything's in place. Yep.
How long will these last, or contract?
We've got another year, so through next July.
Okay.
Bill, do they take care of all the security for the city's website
Everything.
and stuff
Yep,
too?
everything,
So you don't
every
have to pay
department.
extra for that, that's
No.
included? Oh, good.
Yep.
Scary stuff out there right now.
Yep.
Yes. All right, now, let's see, the IT. Next one up is the airport. Good evening, sir.
Evening.
You got something, I don't know. You didn't have time before the meeting or something, I know. Okay, so let's see what you got here. Easy, easy. Part-time salaries looks to be increasing.
Yeah, actually, it's a full-time position. We're going to be requesting this year, I think it's on the staffing changes for the airport. Requesting one additional staff. We're to the point now up there where we're busy enough, and I'm busy enough where I'm not in the office most of the day, running around, and it's becoming a problem with people coming in not being able to be served. There's no service there for the customers.
So, it's under the part-time one, but that's supposed to be on the full-time, is what you're saying?
We haven't decided whether we're going to hire one full-time person or get two part-time people, so we're still
Oh.
kind of in that stages on how we want to position it.
What do you have for help up there right now?
I have a part-timer that's at 20 hours a week.
20 hours a week?
Yeah.
And you're looking to double that roughly, or what is it?
I'd like to have somebody there throughout the day. Joe comes in, he does a 4-hour day, 5 days a week, and try to keep him in on Saturday and to have some kind of coverage on the weekend. And then I'm usually in and out of there Saturday, Sunday.
Just say somebody there full-time, all day, so you're saying just maybe another part-timer then, for 20 hours a week?
Or one full?
Or one full-time. I want to make sure I understand.
Or
that.
two additional part-timers.
So you will
Keep the one now, but actually add another 40, so keep the 20 hours now, but add additional 40 hours on, whether
Correct.
it's two part-timers or whether it's a full-timer.
Full-timer.
That's what we're talking about.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. And of course, if it was full-time, you're talking benefits on top of that. I know you're busy up there, so I'm not trying to say you're not busy, but you're that busy enough to
Yes.
add two part-timers? Or a full-timer?
Yeah. Other increases is line number 262, building maintenance. Trying to get as much done as possible up there. Repairs, budget isn't quite big enough to take care of the outside of the buildings and maintain the doors, the electric doors. So that's an increase for building maintenance. Equipment maintenance, if we're anticipating the snow blower and additional equipment we're having this year. Luckily, we hadn't had any breakdowns on our snow blower. So additional $12,000 would be for having inspections done on the equipment and servicing.
Okay.
Buying that new snowblower.
That would include this new snow blower.
And you went down, looks like you went down on capital outlay.
Yes, we are moving forward with the 6-bay hangar system. We'll bring it to the council. We have all the funding through the FAA to complete the project. So our cost to that will be around $40,000, 5% out of the hangar reserve. Looking for money to do repair work on the roofing systems of all the hangars, estimated around $20,000. We received a generator from the FAA out of New York. It's a used generator, very low hours on it. It was a $68,000 generator, and we're looking at getting $10,000 to get it installed at the airport to cover the terminal and the big hangar, the SRE building, and our nav aids, which is all our runway lighting, radios. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Excuse me, no. Continuing down, equipment and maintenance for the floors in the terminal, we're looking at, I think it says 5,000, and it's more in line with around $9,500 to do a complete flooring job in the terminal and all the office spaces. And we're looking at a new zero-turn mower for the airport. The one we have now, we've got almost 5 years on it, a lot of hours. It's run 5 days a week throughout the summer. And that's it.
Questions about the airport?
The mowing that you mentioned, you said that's being run 5 days a week. Who's doing that?
We have Bobby Legassi comes in during the summer months and mows it.
So that expense is included in your current part-time salaries?
It is, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You go with one full-time employee versus 2 part-time, those numbers, even the benefits and all, yeah.
No.
No.
So once if you make that decision that you hire full-time, you'll have to show that in the benefit line.
Is that on there already?
Okay, any other questions? Airport? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next one up is Mr. Russell, who's not here. Are you covering him, or are we good? It's all pretty much flat.
It's flat, and he's not here.
Yep. I think he's out for
6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8
He's
weeks.
been out about 4 now.
Yep.
You know what the jump is in other contractual services in that one?
That's the Trio software for code enforcement.
Okay, all right.
That's probably in a few of these departments, isn't it?
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Okay. All right, well, thank you, Dave. He's electrical also, that's flat. Planning board, that's flat. Zoning Board of Appeals, that's flat.
He concurred with all these, by the way.
I just want to see if he comes back and he's surprised, that's all.
His budget was the first one done.
Was it? Juniper Ridge. Everything's the same?
Yep.
Okay. Assessors, administrator, okay. Travis, good evening.
Evening. I don't have an increase for Trio because I was already Trio.
You don't have an increase?
For Trio, no.
Okay, because I see an increase of 81% under that, so that's what I thought that was.
No, no, I was the only office in the city that was already on
Actually
Trio.
had it, okay.
Yeah, mine, my budget's pretty easy to sort down through on your note sheet here. You'll see the only two significant changes, 9,500, which is in the 0295, excuse me, 0299, other contractual. What that is, that's an ask for the state does the ortho imagery program. It takes about 5 years to get through the state. They start flying sections of the state, and then we're told that it should be available again in about 5 to 6 years. This is our turn to come back around. The Penobscot County area is coming back through next spring. So they'll start flying as soon as the snow goes off, because they like to fly leaf off, snow gone, next spring. So in order for us to buy into that program, to have the imagery to use, if you see our tax maps out here, our tax maps are overlaid on the imagery, and our online GIS system is built upon that imagery. So the idea is to renew that in those 5-year cycles so it's accurate. So if new houses go up, new developments, things like that, that imagery is used for everything from myself locating things. Dave Russell looks at wetlands on it. It's good enough that he can do some of that. We do not ask to buy up to the highest levels, because the only towns really that do that are towns that have their own engineers. So when they're trying to do layout roads and things like that to an engineering standard, they have to have a higher level of imagery, which in our case would be nearly $30,000 to buy up to that imagery, and we don't need it. So this is the initial step to buy into the program so that Old Town will get our own imagery to load into that. The public doesn't have access to, but the town does, and we use it quite a bit. We can overlay all of our water mains, hydrants, water valve shutoffs, sewer lines, hydrants. The hydrant's all coded, so you tag on them and it tells you how many gallons per minute, and there's a lot of data that can be put in there. So it's a very useful system, and this is the backbone of it. So that's why we're asking to have it. If we don't do it this time, it would potentially be 2025 before we'd get a chance. So our imagery would be 10 or 11 years old by then. So that's what that number is. The line items up top for benefits, Danielle's already covered. The only other thing that I have is in the capital projects. I'm not sure what page that would be on. We're about to find out.
36.
36, yeah. In capital projects, you'll see a $20,000 line item that is something new. We've asked for that to start building up for a potential partial reval in approximately 2022. We figure if we put away $20,000 a year, it was in there last year and they get cut, so we tried to start it last year. The thought is that our records are good, so we don't need to go with a full-out reval, which would require hiring a company to send people out and measure every house and try to get inside every house. So it's more of an update. A lot of it's behind the scenes. You hire companies to look at your cost schedules. They're based on national trends and local trends. And of course, the more difficult properties are the mills and the dams, things like that. They have experts look at those cost schedules so that we know we're being equitable to all levels of our taxpayers. So that's what the goal is there, is to try to build up an account so that in 2022 we'll have at least the beginning of a nest egg to fund that project.
Is there any way, I'm sorry, that you could take the 9,500 and put that in there as well, instead of doing a $9,500 bill every 5 years? Just start piecemealing it so that you know that it's there?
Yep, we actually had that exact conversation during my budget meeting with them. I think the reason it hasn't been done is because we're not guaranteed it's going to happen. It depends if the county says yes and they pay their portion. It depends if the state gets their funding from the feds. so we're not sure it's gonna happen. We could put away $2,000 a year and be ready for it. And as long as the funding's there from the county and the feds and the state, then it would all work. Yeah, I agree. We just don't know if it's gonna be funded from time to time.
But it's something that's done every 5 years, or should be.
Right now, this is our second trip through. Yeah, this is our second time that they've gone through the entire state in one of these projects, so.
Okay. Anything else for Travis? Thank you. Board of Assessment Review, that's all set, right? That's good.
Yes,
Yep.
it's flat.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Fire Department. We're making very good time. I've been at 50 minutes.
I'll keep it.
That doesn't mean you can go for 30 minutes.
Do what I can for you.
Okay.
This is not a flatline budget.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So I guess before I kind of get started, the first thing I'd like council to understand is we're in the middle of a contract negotiation for both police and fire. Both police and fire have brought to us and have done their homework on what compensation is surrounding the area, and they've made some pretty good arguments on the fact that we're below that. So I would ask that as you move forward in the budget process, which is difficult, I understand, that we at least try to become competitive within that market, because I think it's important that we retain people and that we pay them for what they're doing. So that would be number one overall, and that's one of the biggest increases that you'll see on both sides of that house.
Okay.
As we move forward. So for the fire department, you can see the Plymouth vent system. That, again, we're up in the air whether or not insurance will cover that or not. And
Wait, he's looking at the capital equipment list first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the,
I just started jumping out.
All right.
I just figured
so
we
the
get
capital equipment list is right next to the last
I
page.
figured I'd get the big ones out of the way.
Sure.
So, so you'll see that Plymouth vent system. You'll also see that, so we've written a federal grant and have applied for that grant. So you'll see hose lengths that we've looked to purchase, but we've also applied for that under a grant. We don't know if we're going to get that. There's some slow up with that grant process due to the governmental shutdown, and the federal government will start dropping departments like 100 at a time across the nation, telling you whether you received it or you didn't receive it. So we may not know until July or August whether or not we've received monies for grants. And so it's in here because nothing's a sure thing. You're going to look for a ventilation fan that we're looking to purchase. We have one ventilation fan that is electric. This is an electric fan. We have a couple gasoline ones, a couple that don't work. The theory behind going to the battery-operated one is we're kind of beating ourselves up when we're ventilating a house, when we're running gasoline generator inside. We're just putting it back inside, so we're looking to push that air out with the battery-operated one. Again, the fire nozzles. We have a lot of stuff on the truck that is older than some of the guys that have worked here. And like anything else, I would relate it to firearms. On the other side of the house, if you have if you have nozzles that are 20 years or older, technology has changed. There's a better way to fight fire, and these new nozzles will deliver that for our folks to do that. We're looking for a David Clark radio system in the ladder truck. We have a David Clark system in our engine truck, and what that is the headphone systems that you can see. And I had a good opportunity to use these as, you know, and ride in a truck that doesn't have them versus riding a truck that does have them. You know, part of our physicals each year are hearing screenings to see if we're losing any of our hearing for firefighters. So this system breaks down on that, a lot of that cabin noise, but also allows them to communicate with each other and hear the radio very clear within the cabin of that truck. So we're looking for that for the ladder truck as we have it in the engine. Hose dryer. We're looking for a way to dry a hose rather than having to drive down to Orono and hang it, or over to Milford to hang it. So that was the request on the hose dryer. The gear extractor. We have an old gear extractor that we got from Penobscot Nation back in the day. With the cancer screenings that are going on, and we're looking to upgrade and update the gear extractor to go with our new gear dryer that we purchased a couple years ago because of that.
What is that exactly?
So it's basically a washing machine, but it extracts all of the particles that are supposed to be particles of cancer.
Oh, okay.
So that's what that does, yeah. So it's basically, simple terms, I guess, because I couldn't tell you any more than that. That is a washing machine.
That's what
We're looking to 3 turnout gear. We're looking to add, so each firefighter has 2 sets of turnout gear. So once, if they're at the fire, that is the stuff that needs to be processed and washed and dried. The second set gets them back into service right away. So we've got a couple folks that we're looking to update their gear. Bailout belts. This is something that they used to issue. My understanding now is that people either make their own or don't have one. Those bailout belts are designed so if they're in a position on a 2nd or 3rd story, and they have to get out of that room because they can't go back out the way they came in, they can bail out a window. This is a belt that allows them to do that with carabiners and tie-off systems so they can bail out the window. So it's a safety issue. Scene lighting. The scene lighting that we're looking at is the same scene light, the same company that makes our all of our Jaws of Life and our Rams. It's made by Hamatro. We have very poor scene lighting, and this is something after a couple of fatal accidents and stuff recently that we're looking at trying to obtain just better scene lighting for safety and security on the roadside. That Hamatro company, so the batteries are interchangeable with all of the existing Jaws of Life and Rams that we currently have, so it falls right into the same system that we operate under. Remote ambulance. So I guess I'll lump EMS and fire all into one. We have our 2 frontline ambulances. One has 105,000 miles on it, and the other one has 97,000 miles on it. And we're looking to do a remount instead of the purchase of a new ambulance to try to cut some of that cost down. The boxes on the ambulance are good, and the folks that are in them, they like what the design is. There's no need to change that box. But we're getting up to the point where we're spending money on ambulance and repairs, and we're at, 2 frontline vehicles at 105 and at 97,000, and we're going all over the place. So instead of replacing the entire ambulance, we're looking at doing the remount system where we would just purchase the chassis, send the chassis and the box out to have the box put onto the new chassis is what we're doing. So that amount that you'd see would be the purchase of the chassis and the work to move the box from one chassis to the other chassis.
Where are we at schedule-wise for replacing, full-on replacement of an ambulance, do you know? What?
I don't know if, I don't know, and that's a good question, because I don't know if did we go every 5 years, did we go every 6 years, did we go away from that and do it as, needed as replacement? That's a good question that I can't answer for you.
If you start planning it ahead of time, you have to design it.
It used to be on the schedule back.
The full ambulance design would take 6 to 9 months.
Right.
The process that we're looking at doing is we have that 3rd ambulance. We still have a 3rd ambulance. We'd put that 3rd ambulance back into service so we're not dropping any calls, and we would send the ambulance out to be mounted and remounted. I don't know if that makes sense. So we're not going to lose an ambulance. We're not going to have to redesign an entire box. That's not what we have to do in this case. All we have to do is take the box off the existing chassis and put it onto the new chassis. The box is still good, but the chassis are the ones, that's what's causing us, that's what we spend money on, is our motors and our plugs. We have one that is going through plugs right now. So we're getting to the point where we're spending more money on them than we probably need to, and this is, I guess when I looked at it, in my opinion, it was a more effective way to get a new ambulance by maintaining the same box, because the boxes are good.
Do you know roughly what you'd have to spend to get a brand-new ambulance right from the ground up?
190 to 200 is what I was told. Yeah.
To answer Scott's question, back in the day, we had a capital equipment sheet and a technical one that had what you're asking, how many dates out and all that.
That's what I was kind of wondering.
Back in the day, and then previous councils just kind of did away with that, and that's kind of now at this point, do you need it this year? Can we wait? That's kind of been the train of thought for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years that I know of.
Basically, we look at the audit. We have a complete list of equipment in there. The audit will give us this equipment is at X percentage. I had a problem before, and Dave said previous counselors were concerned that people were getting stuff that didn't need to be replaced. If it said on the list it was supposed to be replaced in 5 years, a piece of equipment would come up and it would, the question would come up, does it really need to be replaced? And so some people had the perception it was like a wish list or a Christmas list, that people automatically got things whether it was used or not.
And last year, I sent that out to the council, I know I did last year, who was on the council before that, just of what, an example of what we used to do, but we did go away from it.
On the replacement of the cycle of the replacement.
Yes,
of the
oh yeah,
vehicles.
yeah, I sent it out last year, for technical and capital, so I still have it from back when we used to do it. But Bill is right, that there was a number of councils that felt that just because it's up this year doesn't really mean that it's needed.
Yeah.
So we kind of went away from, we went away from the plan.
What year is your newest vehicle?
So I just asked Danielle that exact question. So our oldest is a 2010, then 14 and 16. So the front two are one's 14, one's 16, and one's got, again, 105 and then 97. So putting a significant amount of miles on them.
How many runs are we making a year?
Just-
basically?
If you look at our CAD system, quickly, if you pull the number of the CAD system, it was just 2,700 or just a little more, so just shy of 3,000 this year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was lumping that together.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if there's anything else in there.
You want to go just straight down through your,
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
just looking real quick through the numbers here. What's
Well,
your
I
big
did
numbers?
miss one capital equipment
Yeah, okay.
request, which was which was to increase our staffing levels by 3, which would add an additional firefighter, paramedic to each crew. The way that I would propose to do that is under what is known as the SAFER grant. And what the SAFER grant is if we fall or we come within compliance of NFPA 1710 or 1720, which will show us, are we not staffed properly to provide the service? Part of that is an engine should have 4 people on an engine. We can very easily show that there are days that we don't run 4 people on an engine, that sometimes we run 2 people on an engine, some days we run 3 people on an engine, depending on where your ambulances are and where people are and they're out. For instance, today both ambulances were out and we had 1 person left at the station. So if we were to respond in an engine, we would not be staffed properly for that. The other issue that we have is, as when we act as a engine company and we go to a fire call only, we leave the ambulance in the barn and we take the ladder truck in the engine, because that's what we do to staff those 2 trucks in order to operate them. Just the other day, we brought the ladder truck back at a high rate of speed from Kirkland to the station to get an ambulance, to go on an ambulance call on another community that we contract with. I really think that we're putting ourselves in a position of liability to have to race back to the fire station to grab an ambulance to respond. I think with the SAFER grant, we can easily show the government that there are times that we're not staffing certain apparatus correctly under NFPA standards, and I think we have a really good shot of obtaining this grant. This grant is a 3-year grant. The cost of the grant, the first year, the federal government pays 75% of the grant, the city pays 25% of the grant. That flops a lot in year 2, where the federal government pays 35% of the grant and the city pays 65% of the grant. And then year 3, the city picks up the full cost of the firefighters that you would obtain under the grant. A couple of caveats to that is, during the grant period, there can't be any layoffs. And also during the grant period, it is, if you had somebody that retired, you have to fill the position. That's a couple of the caveats under the federal grant standard guidelines for this. And again, I think when you look at being competitive in the area, there are other departments that are going to 42-hour work weeks, and I think that's something that we need to keep in mind in order to be competitive. So throw that out there.
And what are we doing, what is it now?
56.
56.
Yeah. So, again, that would be how I would look to go about obtaining the 3 additional staffing levels. If you look at They used to run 7 as a crew. They're doing 1,000 more calls a year with one less person per crew than they were when they were at 7. So they're busy. So that would be the last thing under the capital for the fire side.
So is
Fire
the-
EMS.
In your fire budget, the salary numbers, is that reflective of that 25% the first year? Is that what the numbers are, or?
The 25% would come in under the revenue piece. So, I mean, we loaded the budget to have the full 3 people in the fire
So
department.
the increase in salaries in the budget is full cost of 3 people?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Is the 15%? Is that what you're asking?
No,
Todd?
but-
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so-
we'll look at fire and the ambulance budget too, the EMS budget, because you'll see,
Oh, okay.
we've split that.
Oh, okay, so it's
We
not
split
really, it's not 15
employees,
total.
right, yeah.
Right, okay.
So you'll see the increase there as well.
Oh, 15, okay,
I
so
was trying to
30.
figure out how you're going to hire 3 people for $70,000.
Right. But we're not. No, we're not. No.
All right, that
145.
that makes sense, and I was actually looking at that myself. Okay, so, any other questions on this? The contractual services for you, that's up. 15,000, okay, so we spent. Is that for him too, for the trio, whatever that's called? That's
No.
not for him?
No.
No.
No. Power DMS will be in there.
Who is it?
The Power DMS for the fire department.
Okay.
And you'll see that that also covers like our warranty and maintenance on our life packs in the ambulances.
Okay.
Those are what are in those lines. Schedule Express is in there.
Clothing is, oh, that's the clothing, okay. Uniform maintenance, that's up a little bit.
So as I look down through this, the 2,000 line items, is it fair to say that the bulk of the increases are based on the fact that you'd have 3 more mouths to feed, so to speak, as far as equipment and maintenance, and is that where most of the increases are coming from, the extra bodies?
I think what you're seeing is just true cost, is a reflection of what the true cost. So if you were to look at the uniform and maintenance, a lot of that was, the past years, the last year and a half was turnout gear. That was at end of life that we replaced. We went away and did a different way of issuing uniforms. So before it was kind of an a la carte. You could pick to have 2 T-shirts, a pair of pants, and a job shirt. And I wanted to start from, here's 4 sets of this, we'll replace as needed as we move forward. Or, you don't have winter boots, you only have summer boots. And I said, well, I think you need to have winter boots and summer boots, because if you're out in the wintertime, you should have winter boots. So some of those cost reflections are because we've changed the way that we've issued and done uniforms as well.
Do you, I was looking, and you have the immunizations. Do the men get them? We've now got measles around again, whooping cough. And they're certainly going to come in contact with something, and flu.
I think what you'll see is they get a standard set of shots that are hepatitis shots, and the rest of it would be every year they have their physicals, and I don't dive into what they have done during their physicals.
Would you recommend that they be up to date, though?
Sure, I can recommend it.
Because I worry about all that, in that closed cap, Thank you.
Any other questions for Scott under the fire and ambulance?
I'm sorry, so these numbers are going to be reflected all the way through with 3 additional people, with clothing going up to 20,000, up 20,000.
When you say go all the way through, this is just for the next year you're talking
For
about?
this,
For this budget?
Right.
For this one budget at
Right.
the what's,
so are you're counting on these 3 people throughout this whole budget?
in this
Well-
number that we're looking at right here, when it shows up 15% on full-time for fire and 15% for ambulance, that's 3 people that we're considering for this next year.
She means
For the whole, everything.
On that,
Well, the clothing.
The clothing, everything.
Including those 3 additional.
Yes.
all the way through.
Yes.
Okay.
yes, yep,
So,
It's already added in.
yeah.
So everything is already added in.
Yes.
The 3 people.
We're in here.
Were in.
Okay.
the
Yes.
entire budget.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was kind of my question too, is if, hypothetically, if we back those 3 new people out, you know, what are we looking at?
Right.
Overall, are we looking at 3 or 4% like the other departments roughly, or what are we talking about? Do we know?
It would have a direct reflect on the line item.
it would, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like
Yes.
some of the training would go down, some of the clothing
Right,
would go
right,
down, some of the
right.
travel,
Salaries,
Yes,
taking that,
yes.
and the salaries, yes.
Yes.
Yep,
But I think as we go on with these discussions, that's when we'll get those numbers, exactly
Right.
what that bottom line would be if we back those 3 positions out.
Okay.
Because that's going to change the whole pages here, so. All right, so we good with fire and ambulance? Let's see, who's next?
Me.
Fire hydrants, we're good on that. Nothing changing on that?
That went up 2%, but that's because of water, not, the water cost went up 2% on hydrants.
Okay.
Better than 15 or 20.
14 last year. 14.
yeah, it's 14
Oh,
last
yeah.
year.
Police department.
We'll stay right on capital budget then. So I've come back again for 2 cars this year. I've had 1 car for the past years that I've been here. We're at a point now where we have vehicles that are, let me shift folders here, that are over, I've got 2 that are over 100,000. One at 101 plus, one at 110. I've got one at 15,000. That was a replacement because we had a totaled cruiser this year in an accident. I've got one at 79, 64, 74, and 84. So the goal would be to add 2 frontline cruisers, and that cost is the reflection, the cost of the right is a reflection of 2, and then equipment and transfer over to both vehicles. We're requesting, would like to get into thermal spotlights, where we would purchase one, and then we would replace the existing spotlights as we rotated cars out. So every year, we would build that $5,000, depending on plus or minus what those go to, into the build of the car, or into the equipment cost of the car. And so as we rotate through cars over the years, each vehicle would then have a thermal spotlight on it as well. We're looking to replace firearms. Our firearms were purchased in 2013. The increase on the firearms is because we're going to change sight systems. We're going to go to a hologram sight system with a red dot. And with that comes an increase in holster change as well. The other thing is that 19,000 is high for firearms, specifically when you have a good buyback program with Interstate Arms and with Glock. We have a price on SIGs, which is much less expensive than that. And the reason being is SIG manufactured their own sights, they manufacture their own rails, and that's the big cost when you go to the Glock, is Glock doesn't manufacture that sight, and they don't manufacture they'd have to have their rail adjusted to accept that sight. The reason that we're going to that site is it increases accuracy in shootings, and when we've had 2 police-involved shootings in 5 years in Old Town, 5 years, yeah, we want to make sure that our people are equipped with the best that we can for them. So Axon body cameras is, as you know, body cameras are a big ticket across the country. We're looking to go to a body camera system. That is a 5-year lease. That's a full deployment. That's a body camera per officer in the department. It also includes all your charging, and it includes your storage through evidence.com, through Taser, which is a cloud-based server, which would house all of our video basically from that. With that, we would look to go and swap over to the Axon car camera system as well. The current systems that we have are, the in-car systems are 6 years old, and we'd like to keep within the same company, same network of cloud-based service. If we use the same company, if we do Axon car cameras and Axon body cameras, they both work together as as you need them. So, for instance, if you turn on your blue lights, it activates your body camera. We can buy an upgrade for our tasers that if you draw your taser, it activates your body camera. It goes as far as to a Bluetooth sensor in your holster, so if you draw your holster, it activates your body camera, but it also activates your car camera, so now you're recording both your vehicle camera, your body camera. So the same system is, realistically, it's easier for our detective that spends a huge amount of time with looking at discovery from the DA's office and the amount of video that they're requesting today. We spend a lot of time in dealing with video. This makes it very easy to do on one system rather than having a WatchGuard system and having an Axon system. So,
You've got one car camera system, so you're just looking to like pilot that one car camera to see what it's like, or?
I'd do a full swap over is what I'm looking
Because it
for.
only has one listed in here, that's what I was wondering.
That's the lease for the 5 years, 12,000. It actually goes down to 10,000 on the years 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I forgot to ask him the number of cars,
Yeah,
so
no,
I just did one.
that price is the full fleet that have the frontline vehicles that have camera systems in them. We would replace with
$12,000 for each, or for all of them?
no for all of them.
For all of them.
Yeah, that's per year though, but it's a 5-year that you buy. Well, and let me back up
I thought it was
again.
gonna be a lot more than that.
Right, yeah.
Let me back up to the Axon body cameras. Is halfway through that 5 years, you get to replace your body cameras with new ones. At the end, and it's whatever the newest one out that Axon has developed. So at the end of the 5 years on the car cameras, you have the ability to have new car cameras put in if you sign another 5-year lease. So, but you get the but if not, I mean, if you choose not to, you still have,
Right.
you know,
For the
the
fire.
car, right.
Yeah.
But at that $12,000 a year, they take care of everything. So if something breaks, they replace it. Or if something fails.
There's a warranty on it, but off the top of my head, I can't tell you if it's 100% for 5 years. I couldn't tell you there's 100% that they're going to take care of it. I think it's probably a lot like their tasers, and it's limited on what they're going to do with it in a 5-year period, if that.
I was just thinking if we're leasing it, I would think
You
that,
would think it'd be covered if we're leasing it.
I guess when it comes time, that's something I'd want to know.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep, no problem.
But that's still, that price, that's a lot cheaper than what I thought.
I don't want to tell you yes and it be no.
No, I understand.
And then I'm, again, looking for additional staffing on the police side of the house. I'm looking to increase by 3 there as well. The reason I'm looking to do this is a couple reasons, and you could use the same for the fire department with Mr. Gray coming to town. You know, we just recently sat in a meeting with Alex, and Alex told us that, you know, sometime after he has this venue that he wants to open of, now he's over 1,000 people that he wants in this venue, he plans to have Country Style Lee Bryce on Main Street doing a full-blown concert with Main Street shut down. We're certainly not prepared for that, if that were to happen. The positions that I'm seeking is, one would be a supervisor's position, and my goal is to put my sergeants on a 12-hour schedule so I have 24-hour coverage of supervisors. I think that as you look at where we are for years of service on the job, we're young, and having that supervision through the overnights is important to have. That would be one of those spots would be. The second one would be to increase my 5 to 3s on weekend shifts by 1 for when Mr. Gray comes to town this fall. And the third is going to be for the detective's office to add an additional detective. With the increasing discovery requests from the DA's office, the amount of video, it ties up one of our detectives a lot. Again, we're getting increases on DHS referrals, our drug work, and just, again, burglaries, home breaks, whatever. That office is busy. With Mr. Gray coming to town, that's not going to slow down. And that's going to be an increase in workload in that detective's office. So that's what the 3, I don't have a grant to offer you for that.
But is it, I mean, I don't want to say too much because I don't know what you want me to say, but I know you've been in talks with another community about maybe doing something with them that might help support some of these positions.
I have. Very preliminary.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
But that might help this situation,
yeah.
until you can give us more information.
If I could,
Yep.
maybe an executive session on that.
Right, yep.
Could you just give me a breakdown of what you have for personnel in the police department right now?
For personnel,
As
yeah.
far as positions and numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so there's myself, then there's a deputy chief, there's 3 sergeants, there's 2 detectives, K-9 officers, Justin Angelo, school resource officers, Willie King, and then 8 patrol officers on top of that. So total number is 16.
How much?
16.
16? The resource officer, how does that, do we pay half and the school pays half?
Well, that's gonna run out.
Because,
We're coming, we're out, aren't we?
Yeah, and this year is the first year that it's truly split 50/50.
Split.
The Department of Justice grant has run out as of June 30, 19.
So yes, we pay 50%, they pay 50%.
okay.
So that increase is also reflected in the full-time
Yes.
salaries, that we'll be paying the full cost of that?
Yes.
Because basically, we have one officer for how many schools?
Well, he does RSU, so it's 5.
5 schools. So I've been thinking about that now that my daughter's, in school, that with that many schools, that I know he's a very busy person.
He is.
So I just didn't know how the funding worked, if we ever look down the road to add an additional person to help that out. He can't get to all the schools. I mean, he just can't. And
No,
I'm sure he's busy with the older grades, and, he does what he can.
His days, the large percentage of his time is at the high school.
Right.
I'd say the middle school is second to that, and then he makes a conscious effort to get to each elementary school throughout the course of the week if he can.
Right.
Unless it's a call that's needed, then he goes directly to the school that calls.
So that was, and you said this, so that was a grant we had going? You said that
Yep.
It was a 3-year.
3-year grant.
we can't apply for that again? That's not even out there.
There's not one out there right now.
Out there.
No.
But we have been paying out of the budget these years.
Yep.
I think
Yeah,
it's-
percentage
we're
of-
doing now.
yes.
So it's not a full 50% that's in this year's budget.
Just a loss of revenues this year?
It's a loss of revenue. We've always had the position in the budget, just the revenue is going down.
Okay, any questions on the police? And then we got police department special, I'm assuming the special detail, and then we got communications, that's you also.
But those are no longer used.
No longer
Okay.
used.
My favorite.
Okay, then we move to street lighting, is that you?
That is me, and again, that basically comes down to if, 1, we do anything, 2, what it is you'd like to do. There's
Right.
the real term out there that came and presented, but there's also the fact that I've been in touch with the mayor, and our mayor says that they'll swap over all of our lights. That's not a cost, but we still rent them and pay the monthly rental on what the lights would be. They're working on what that cost difference would be, because we would save money with the LED lights versus what we're currently using. So I've not yet heard back as to what the difference in that is.
Okay. We good, everyone?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not bad, 35 minutes for all of it. Did all right. Public Works. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
All right, what do you got? Yeah, let's see.
Where do you want to start?
Whatever you want to start with. You tell us what page
30,
you're on.
I'll start with 3020, which is, I share that with Chief Wilcox. I share the traffic lighting. Actually, all traffic control signals are under my responsibility now. There was an increase there. Obviously, we've got, that's everything from just regular maintenance, which actually happens a lot more than I thought.
Right.
And we've got equipment replacement, some small stuff, but that's kind of a stab in the dark at actually putting a budget together to maintain the stuff.
This is the 387 traffic control?
3020?
3020.
Yeah. It went under, we had a $10,000 increase under 265, equipment maintenance and repair.
Okay.
This essentially, we've got 3 sets of lights. We've got traffic control lights, that's what we're looking for the money for maintenance for. And then the street lights that are on the poles are Scott's under a lease, and then all of the pole mounted stuff is stuff we take care of under a budget under parks. Public Works, we put an increase in for contract line striping and increased signage, sign maintenance. We, as you probably know, in years past, did all of the stencil work. We would contract long line, and then we would do in-house stencil work. That was a one-person operation, which is, first of all, not safe. The equipment is old, and so Larry had retired. And then we tried contracting it, which we were successful in contracting within budget, yet we're 58th on, the contractor has done it, he's been doing it for so long. He's got so many communities, we're number 58, so from a timing standpoint. And we had bid it out in years past to see whether or not we could do the stenciling and all the long line out, and it is much, much more expensive than the party that we've been contracting with. So there's additional money to try to make it happen in a more timely manner. And the scope is increased as well.
Yes.
Transfer station is 40/20. There was really no increase there. That budget is just down to essentially tipping fees and contracts.
Okay.
No parks and recreation, no swimming pool. Park maintenance, we had an increase in the beautification and Christmas line item for, we have several community events that we help fund, and of course the expendables for much of these events. 5035, I think the only adjustment we made was we're contracting the municipal building cleaning now, so there was a slight adjustment, a couple grand. Yeah.
Is that the only one we contract with?
The only building that's
Yeah.
contracted,
The library has its own, the public has its own.
right.
time.
We get 2 hours a week at Public Works. The rest of it's here.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
We want to go to capital projects.
Yep.
I should back up, actually. We're talking labor, when we were back at 4,000.
Well, I see,
I
I was
had
looking at
requested 2
labor
additional.
on, there's one I was looking at on labor, it was on park maintenance. Is that the one I saw that was up? No, maybe it wasn't that one.
Public Works, we've requested 2 additional people, full-time. And that, again, is in response to, with all good things, there are responsibilities as well, with, greater demands on infrastructure, more focus on the downtown. And moving forward,
What? Yeah, and 2 people in Public Works.
right, that's it.
John, what do you anticipate getting from 2 new people? What would you expect to normally
Primarily,
like?
I think primarily that'll be with the opening of next door. I think we're going to see a lot of, in any place where you have a venue like that, which essentially will be the equivalent of a river fest every few days a week. There'll be a lot of work spent downtown, cleaning the streets, repairing whatever gets broken, stolen. I see additional work done on sidewalks. That's additional 80 man-hours per week.
I guess I'm directing it to the council, not to people coming before us, but I'm hearing a lot of requests for personnel for one venue. It seems like this venue is going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm a little concerned with that. I'm wondering if you guys had discussions about this when it was brought up. It sounds like it's going to be a very expensive venture for us.
Right. No, we talked to Mr. Gray about all of this, and I think the departments right now, this is just my opinion, the departments are preparing themselves for probably worst case scenario. Just my opinion. I'm not sure what will happen when it opens. I mean, we've been assured that he would take care of everything inside the building, and outside is something happens outside. But I think things are different than when he used to run things in Orono. I truly believe that. So I don't know if it's going to be as bad as what maybe we think it is, but this is just my opinion.
But I agree with Carl, it's a very expensive venture. for the citizens.
I mean, I don't,
Will business- And will other businesses, should they decide to come in, are they going to expect the same? Because at some point, we're not gonna be able to afford all.
Well,
We can't
and the
afford
other
it
thing too is,
now.
as we know tonight, is the department heads coming to us to
Sure.
present what they would like to have.
And it's happening now, and
Right.
it's kind of like to, you know, you can't reverse that. And I think what some of the departments are preparing for worst-case scenario rather than
Right.
what actually
Might
that's my
happen,
opinion.
right.
Yeah.
well, I guess
That's okay.
one of the
Right.
questions I've had, has there been discussions with Mr. Gray about, is he going to provide security? Is he going to provide people to clean up after these events? Is he going to provide some of these services that,
My understanding is, now I haven't been in all the discussions, but my understanding is he was gonna take care of everything inside. As far as Chief said, he does plan, when we talked about this numerous occasions, he does plan on having some events outside. It's not like it's every week. It might be once, twice a year, maybe more than that. At that point, I think when we get to that point, we will have to sit down with him to see what, exactly who's gonna take care of what. But, once again, I think what's the department heads are preparing for worst case. I don't think it's gonna go that direction, this is just my opinion. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think as it goes on, we might have to put additional people on. But I'm not sure if we need to do that at this point, till we actually see how this works out.
again, nothing on you, Mr. Rulo, it's, I just.
I
This is the second
understand.
time I'm hearing this now, it's like, we're adding a lot of personnel for one venue. I'm really concerned about
Right.
that. I'm wondering if we made the right move with this. And again, I apologize, I wasn't involved in that.
Right.
I wish I had been now, because it sounded like it's gonna be a very expensive venture for the taxpayers. I'm really worried about that.
If we go down that road and add all these
If
positions.
we hit this worst-case scenario with that one venue,
Right. I mean, we see what he does in Bangor. We've seen it other areas. I don't think there's been that many issues, from what I can tell. But I think the council made the right decision by doing this, bringing this business to town. I think it's gonna boost us in the right direction, just like the mill. And I'm not personally, once again, this is being presented to us tonight. I'm not convinced myself that we need all these positions, especially just for one business.
I hope you're right.
That's just my opinion.
Hopefully, he has people inside that it won't get to that point.
Right.
It shouldn't.
I mean, whether you get more personnel or not, I don't think it's fair to your department if you have a ton more work to do downtown because we open up one new business. That's not fair to you guys.
I agree, and I mean, yes, it is preliminary.
Right.
I mean, but I think we have enough foresight to know that things are gonna change for the better, overall. But, also with the mill opening, I mean, there's gonna be significant increase in traffic through town, which means there's gonna be a lot more pressure on the infrastructure, which means I'll have a lot more hours in pavement patching and cleaning chips and all those sort of things. So the two people was, I could certainly find 80 man-hours a week worth of work, constructive work to do. I'm not saying that it's all gonna be next door. It could be, but I'm not really sure. I guess we'll just have to see. But I proposed to, because I can't get a half a person really. And thinking that it's probably going to change the way the hours work as well, we'll have to split things up, so some will have to work through the weekend, potentially. We've talked about what we thought would happen anyways. So best to bring it forward in a proposal at this
Absolutely.
point.
Yep.
And just in looking back at what we've done, I mean, one important thing to remember is we have added a couple people back, but we had over 20% loss in personnel here back from 2011 through 2016. So, I mean, you still have that loss of personnel that we've had here. And I can get you a list and show you the people that we used to have in Public Works and full-time janitors that we don't have anymore, and people that used to do things around the city that aren't available any longer. So, I mean, Alex Gray, obviously bringing in a new venue like that's going to have an impact, but some of that's from losses that we've had from previous years. Again, we just want to make sure that you folks are aware of what people's concerns are, and we'll see where it all falls out.
I think it's, excuse me, it's probably just fair to mention that with the two, and like Mr. Mayo said, we have seen reductions in labor, and I've got 14. If you start backing me out, my part-time secretary out, 2 full-time mechanics that we used to put on the road, but now we seem to be fixing more often, so when something breaks, obviously I have to take them off the road. I've got a guy that essentially does facilities maintenance and services other departments, so he's not doing core public works stuff. So we could, again, certainly use 80 man-hours to try to help. We have pressure on sidewalks, on plowing. We struggle to put enough seats for our core plow routes as it is now.
But yeah, just with that one person, he's doing building maintenance, cemeteries, everything else, he's not even.
Right.
Well, that's a better argument. than just one.
Right, and I didn't want to, I mean, obviously, that's where the conversation spurred. We've tried to get people before, unsuccessfully, but we see, I think it's great that there's going to be potentially 5,000 additional people a week come through town, but how many, what's that, 3 Riverfests? And there's an awful lot of work that goes into that. If you're doing it every week, it takes man-hours.
We don't have to, the thing about that, John, is we don't have to plan that one. That we just have to do the after. We don't have to.
No, I understand that, but
You're saying there's
when I
many people that
execute the
come-
manpower, planned or not, we can pull those off all the time now. Riverfest, Memorial Day Parade, all of those things. We know exactly what we need to do, but manpower issues are solved with men.
Right.
That's all there is to it. It all just takes manpower.
Right.
But when he hits the street, when everybody hits the street, and there's 400 people parking around here somewhere, I'm sure we'll be picking garbage cans out of the river, and all of the stuff that comes with that kind of.
crowds.
Right.
Exactly. Shall we move on?
Yes.
You want to go in order, 7,000? Heavy equipment, capital?
Well, what was the increase in the park maintenance
It was the-
part-time salaries?
That's the one I was looking at, the part-time salaries.
That's bringing his staffing levels back up. Last year, in part of the budget reductions, John, gave up 2 positions.
Yes, he did.
Cemetery mowing.
Yep.
Our prison crew, essentially.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Prison.
Yeah, no, he reduced that area. Okay, so you're on what are you on?
Heavy
capital?
equipment, capital.
Okay, go ahead.
I had made a request for 3 pieces of equipment. One of them is a holder. Those are the sidewalk machines. That is equipped, by the way, with a ribbon blower and a sander on it. A 10-wheeler, which I had last year. By the way, the holder is in 1998, and that one doesn't run now. And I've got, they're rough service machines. They're certainly the right piece of equipment for the work that we do, but they're getting up there in age. The wheeler is the 2009 currently. That one I think is 139,000 miles, and it's out in the country. That's, again, rough service, and they operate in quite a corrosive environment. So that was on last year's list, but I gave it up. And bucket loader, we've got 2 Cat 924s. One of them, we just did a head replacement on a motor that was replaced the year before, and we've got duct tape on them. They're getting old and rotted. That's a 2005. I've got 2 of them that are 2005s. So that was my heavy equipment request.
Is there a lease possibility on the loaders?
Yes, yep. Initially, I know.
I've reached out to a couple banks to see if we can do some leasing, like we had done last year, to, get more mileage out of our money. So we'll hear back from them in the next week or so.
Good.
I've looked for, I guess there's an opportunity to lease all equipment. It's just, that's where the finance people come in. I run them and fix them.
As long as you've got something that runs, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
7,200 is, that's where that's where paving is.
Page 36 and 37.
So I put a paving scope together.
Which they have.
You have that, so you know where we're at with that. I also had 2 other projects I was asked to put together Woodland Avenue on the left. We call it Woodland Ave left. That's the 6,200 feet of dirt on the left. We have a plan, we have an engineered plan that was developed, and we took the last 1,400 feet of it, and I've got 80, oh, you have that too? Okay.
Yeah, they have both of them.
As well as the Kirkland Ave and the Colonial Drive. Those are drainage improvements and road base improvements.
Those are, pretty much those three have been pretty good headaches the last few years.
Well, I know one of them has.
Yeah. So this would help reduce that.
1,400 feet is how many feet of the total that we need out there?
6,200 total.
6,200 total.
That's for Woodland Avenue?
Yes.
You'd start at the very far end and come this way, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's, that doesn't, I think I proposed one with pavement on it, was an ad for the last, that 1,400 feet, but that essentially executes the engineered plan from the base up.
Right. Okay.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Questions for John on anything? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're down to the end here. Library.
This is my
No,
13th budget.
no handouts? No handouts this year?
No,
Really?
you gotta
I look
keep the
forward
ones
to that
from
every
last
year.
year. Well, my first request is that next year, instead of being Department 5,500, I want to be Department 550, so I can go first. 13 years I've
Up a
been
zero
last.
next year, right?
I asked him this morning, I said, geez, last year went but from the website, from the start of the airport, went down through, but he said, Dave, it'd be easy to do this. said,
I know.
Okay.
It's okay.
I feel bad for you, just for that, we're gonna raise your budget.
Okay. We also are asking for someone in personnel, or hours in personnel and positions. We're trying to recapture. We lost 2 full-time positions several years ago. And we're running, historically, we had 5 full-time people, and we've been running on 3 full-time people for quite a long time now. And adding part-time positions, but not able to retain qualified people because they're just little part-time positions. So what we're asking to do is to take one of the positions that was cut several years ago down to a part-time position and take it back to a full-time position. So it's adding about 8 hours.
So they get, right now, they get 32 hours?
37 and a half is full-time, and they get 29 and a half.
So 29 and a half, so it's just an additional 8 hours.
It's additional 8 hours, but
Whatever the
benefits.
benefits would be.
Right.
About
They
20,000
decide to take could be the,
Right.
okay.
So I'd like,
So that's reflected in here on that one?
yep.
Part-time salaries right there.
And then we're trying to add some more hours to the children's department. We asked for that last year, and we didn't get it, but we sort of finagled 10 hours. I was able to rob Peter to pay Paul kind of thing. And so we'd like to add an additional 10 hours in that children's department so that we can cover the programming that we're doing and that people are requesting. And then we'd really like to have a 20-hour marketing programming person back. We lost a really great individual because she was able to get a full-time position somewhere else. And we really could use that person both across adult and children's programming and then marketing to kind of, get the story out about us.
Okay, so that's taking the 29 hours, adding 8 hours plus benefits, and then an additional 10 hours, and then an additional 20 hours.
Right. So all in all, it equates to about 1 full-time position.
Okay. Yep, that's right.
And then in my operating budget, the things that you'll see that have changed, the utilities line looks like it's gone way up, but that's what we've done is we've put the heating into that utilities line.
Utility, so it's 19,500.
Yep. And then, and I'm hoping, we've had the lighting survey done, and we're supposed to be having a changeover to LED lighting, and I really hope that's going to help with our electric bill, because we have a pretty high electric bill.
Yeah.
I've put in a little bit more into the software licensing fees, because our fees have gone up a little bit for the consortium fees. I always like to add to the books and subscriptions line whenever I can, and the children's programming line. I supplement, both of those with our endowment accounts, but I have to be careful because we're not, supposed to be using those to take the place of a municipal budget.
I actually met last year with Cindy and Carol and Bill, so I could get educated on that, and it's very specific.
It is very
What you can
specific.
and can't use, so it
Right.
does sound like she has a big number there, but she cannot use it for what people think.
Right, right. And then I have cut the concerts in the park budget because we have a nice carry forward that we've been able to do each year, and so we don't really need the full 6,000.
Okay.
And then in the capital accounts, each year we usually have computers that are scheduled to be replaced. We don't always replace them, but we kind of have that same schedule that Bill talked about. And we do have a few that we need to replace this year. I'm not positive that it's a full six, but at least 3 that we need to replace at the circ desk. We're also finding that our security cameras, they're wonderful. They've helped us quite a bit, but we don't have them in all the places that we need to have them. So we kind of need some additional cameras and motion detectors. We've recently gotten some more panic buttons, which was great, and the safety committees helped with that. We've had a couple of incidences there at the library that were pretty serious, and the cameras have helped us quite a bit.
Good.
Our sprinkler system is due for the internal pipe investigation. I have no idea what that will cost. I haven't gotten a quote on that yet. And then the last thing we'd really need to do, our circulation desk was built 30 years ago, and it was built at a time when, we didn't have the computers that we have now, and we don't have a good handicap accessible level desk, and ergonomically, we've got a couple of the stations that really are not good. So we'd like to see that renovated, rebuilt. And I did get a quote from the man who actually built the first one. And I'd really like to be able to use him if we can. We'd like to build sort of a privacy screen glass area, or above the desk, part of the desk, so that, we can see through, but it's, yeah.
Yep. That's good. Any questions for Cindy? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sorry you had to wait so long.
That's all right.
All right, so what do we got left here? I think we're pretty much, capital reserve, already gone through the capitals. Good? All right, so let's plan on what we agreed to that we'll do next Wednesday at 4. Come back and do that, and then from there we can adjust going forward. I think after the break, we can mentally at least set it for every Wednesday. I don't think we'll need all that many, but at least start it and then see how it all shakes out. Because we still have the whole month of May, and as Bill's always said, from day one, it's really to the end of June till the
Legislature makes their mind up.
figures everything out. So we're not going to really get true numbers at that point till the end.
What's your thought process for what do you hope to accomplish for next week's meeting?
I mentioned about waiting, doing it after break, but I know there's a few people that want to do it next week, so
I
I
have no
mean,
problem meeting next week. I guess, what are we looking to, we want to direct the manager to give us something between now and then?
Or is it just?
I think it's just for us to take this all back, take everything in, kind of think about it until then, and then we can kind of give feedback between us next week. And then after that, and, you know, after the break, we could bring department heads back, ones that we need to, or if we have more questions on anything. So I think if it's anything, just everything we took in tonight, have some more questions next week that we can ask Bill about, and talk about it ourselves, and see where we're at, what we're thinking. You know, we've heard a lot about additional people, about additional things. There might be some stuff between now and then that some of us think right off the bat that.
Well, that's my big question, is Bill had alluded to it before. A great deal of increase in here is new positions and
Right.
whatnot. You had mentioned about where we lost a bunch of people. Can you put that together and get it out to us before the meeting next week, so we kind of take a look at, you know, where we lost out over the last several years?
Right.
Maybe help us prioritize,
In those
you know,
areas.
who's really been beat up over the last 5 or 10 years. and-
I know he's,
I mean, I'd like to see it go back a little bit further. What did the city look like 10 years ago?
well, I think Bill, I know he sent it out to us before, 3 or 4 years ago, of when we really had to make some deep cuts of how much we lost in each area. So I know he has that one sheet. I don't know what date it goes back to. That's the only thing. I think it was just that, do you remember that year that we did that? When we really reduced that quite a
I
bit?
think it was like in 13, 12.
Yeah, I think it
Both
was
of
maybe
those
2012 that we really,
Beginning of the end.
Yeah, I guess wherever we really took that dive off the cliff with the personnel, I'd like to see, you know, what our staffing levels look like then.
yeah, because I think it was,
Compared to where they are
it was
now.
everything. It was Public Works, library, it was
Yeah.
downstairs on the counter, everything.
Right,
He has that sheet.
right.
So if you can email that out to us, that'd be great. And we can kind of go from there. Take it all in. Like I said, for me, I think I need a little bit more time than next Wednesday, but definitely I think we should meet at least to
I think
shoot it out there.
Just hashing it out
Yeah.
amongst ourselves.
Yep,
What we were looking for,
yep, I agree.
to expect.
Okay, anything else to come before the Finance Committee meeting? Can I get a motion? Oh, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you guys
Thank you
tonight.
guys very
you.
much.
Appreciate it. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Kyle, is there a second? Donna, second? All those in favor? Unopposed? Donna can't do
I
it.
second.
Stan?
Carol did.
Yeah.
Carol did.
We just waved. Okay, we didn't really.